Robert Kennedy calls King and says, we can't afford to have young people hurt. Call this off. We don't want you to do this. And King says in an irate voice, black children are hurting every day.
Good day, Christian family. I have had the distinct honor of knowing our living legend Hidden Figure for many years now. But it was not until recently that I was introduced to the enormous civil rights contributions that our living legend has made. She is one of many whose shoulders we stand upon. Until now, she has been hidden from you, but no more. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mrs. Betty Dunson.
Welcome, Mrs. Betty Dunson, and thank you so much for spending some time with me today and just sharing from your wealth of historical knowledge and personal history. As you reflect, I want to start at the beginning. So I want to ask you about your family. How and why did your family become involved in the civil rights movement?
My father was a Baptist minister. In fact, he pastored the same church for almost 40 years. And at the time of the civil rights movement, before the civil rights movement started, some ministers got together, many of them in Birmingham, Alabama, and the surrounding areas. And they wanted to know how to have changes made where it would be so the whole city of Birmingham wouldn't be segregated. The conditions there were really, really bad. We were segregated in all areas. So the ministers wanted to get a group of people together in masses and try to change the conditions there. And so they contacted Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. because Dr. King had been successful in desegregating the bus system in Montgomery, Alabama, when Rosa Parks refused to give her seat to a white person on the bus. And she was jailed for that reason. And so they asked Dr. King to come and organize a bus protest so that they could they could desegregate the buses in the Montgomery, Alabama. And so he led that successfully. And at the time that was changed, everything changed as far as being able to ride the buses at any seat that you wanted to be in. Rosa Parks was, of course, released from jail and all of that. So they thought Dr. King would be able to leave Birmingham and try to desegregate in all areas where we were being discriminated against. And at that time, all of the facilities, all the schools, we were segregated in every area. Blacks lived in Black communities, whites lived in white communities. We had to drink out of different water fountains. We couldn't use the same restrooms. We couldn't go to the same schools. We couldn't apply for the same jobs as whites. There were no Black bus drivers or firefighters or any of those people. And so every area of the living conditions in Birmingham were segregated. And the Black people's segregated facilities were very dirty and were totally inferior to those of the whites. So they asked Dr. King to come and to try to lead a movement, to try to change all of those conditions.
Right. So your father being part of the Black Ministers Coalition automatically meant that the family was pulled into the civil rights struggle. And what I hear you say that you embraced it. So my question to you is going to be, at what age would you say it became personal?
Well, actually, it was my father and me, and in my immediate family that were more involved in the movement. I was aware at preschool age just how bad the conditions were. In fact, all of the children growing up in Birmingham realized how bad the conditions were. I mean, we could see that we couldn't drink at the same fountains. We could see that we couldn't go to the amusement parks. We had no amusement parks, and we couldn't go to the ones that the white children could go to. We couldn't do any of the things together that white children did. Everything we did was black schools, it was black neighborhoods, and everything we were involved with were blacks. When we went to the movie theater, we had to sit in the balcony in the back. And like I mentioned before, on the buses, we had to sit in the back of the buses. And so everything was very degrading. And as a child, it was very visible. I knew I couldn't do all of these different things. And it was very different. And it was painful growing up as a child, not being able to be treated like all of the rest of the children were treated. Blacks had to be treated one way and whites the other way, and blacks being the inferior ones.
So I heard you say you and your father were more intricately involved in the civil rights movement. So did you attend any strategy sessions?
I did. I went almost every time my father went, except for the meetings where the ministers met together, separate from everybody else, to discuss strategies with Dr. King. And so I participated in the evenings when we met as a full group protesters at the point that we got to be able to protest, march in the streets of Birmingham, Alabama. I was involved in those meetings. And Dr. King's strategy was for us to be nonviolent, to lead a movement that is nonviolent. And regardless of what the police or firemen or all of the officials did, as abusive as they were, as physically abusive as they were, we as a people had to be nonviolent. And so that was his strategy. And if we were going to participate in this movement, it had to be a nonviolent situation. Dr. King knew that all of the news would be covering this. We would be seen all over the world, not only in Birmingham, Alabama. We would be seen all over the world protesting, marching without being violent, just marching for our rights, singing freedom songs, marching so that we could get our rights. He knew that we would be attacked, but again, he wanted the world to see how Black Americans were being treated in Birmingham, Alabama. And so people from all over the world, all over the city, all over the states, everywhere, would turn on their TV and see the marches and the violence. Black people being beaten up with batons and washed down the street with fire hoses at full force, and just being attacked as we marched and just for our rights. But we could not be violent against them. So many people were injured in those movements, and it got bigger and bigger each day that we went.
What's your earliest age that you can remember participating in a march?
I didn't participate in most of the marches. I did participate in the strategy meetings.
Yes.
And the age that I was in high school at that time when all of this began, when the mass marching began. I was in high school. In fact, I remember when it got started, people were sending buses to all of the local high schools telling us to come on and march. And we were going to change things here. And everybody was excited about it. And many of the principals were out trying to discourage us from getting involved in all of this, especially my principal at the school I was in. But everybody just got all excited about doing something to change these conditions, because no one wanted to live like that.
Where were some of the strategy sessions held?
All of the strategy sessions with most of the protests were at the 16th Street Baptist Church, and that's in Birmingham, Alabama. It was chosen because it was one of the larger churches there. And so we would meet nightly at the 16th Street Baptist Church. Now, the ministers meeting directly with Dr. King, separate from the protesters in the larger group, met at different churches and different places there.
Tell me about some of your relationships with some of the participants that met at the 16th Street Baptist Church.
Well, Most of the people that I knew some of the ministers because my father was a minister. And so I knew many of the Birmingham ministers that were there. And I also knew some of the children who went to school with us. And so each evening, the young people, the youth would meet together, and the ministers would meet with Dr. King. And at the end of those meetings at night, we would assemble in the sanctuary at the 16th Street Baptist Church, and all of us would meet there and hear Dr. King speak and, give us instructions for the protests, and we'd sing freedom songs, and we'd be all excited, getting worked up to have protests.
Do you happen to know anyone that was involved in the bombing of that church?
I did. Our photographer's daughter was one of the children that were bombed, killed in that at the 16th Street Baptist Church. It was on a Sunday, and they were attending Sunday school, and she was one of the 4 children killed.
Sorry that you for that loss. It's so painful and personal for you. If I can go a little bit deeper, were there other frightening incidents that you could share with us to give us a
one frightening incident was in one of the nightly meetings where we were, as I told you, we would meet nightly before the next day's protest. And in one of the meetings, Dr. King was very late showing up for the meeting. Dr. King generally showed up after the groups of us had met the youth and the other ministers. And he would come at a specific time most of the nights. And he would be the last person that would speak during those times. He would speak to us in the assembly at the 16th Street Baptist Church. And this particular night, he was extremely late. And nobody gave us the excuse. The minister just asked us to hold on, that they did expect him to come, just be patient and these kind of things. But we began to get worried after it took so long. And I was especially worried. And we were frightened because we knew that Dr. King was in a position to be harmed or killed in that situation. And so finally he came, so relieved that we were just cheering and just so happy to see Dr. King in that pulpit that night.
yes.
And when he came, he told us that the reason he was late is that he had to meet with those policemen, the majority of the policemen that had arrested, and the police officials that arrested the protesters that day. What had happened is that all of the jails in Birmingham were filled. They could not put any more African Americans in jail because there was no room. So what Dr. King told them they had to do was just release them. If you can't jail them, you have to release them. And they refused to release them. Instead, they took them to an open amusement park. It was called Kittyland Park. And I remember it vividly because Kittyland Park was part of an amusement park that the white children could go to, but the black children could not. We never, being very young, didn't understand. We later understood it was because of the color of our skin. And so anyway, they put them there, and that particular night it was raining, it was cold, the conditions were. And so Dr. King told them they had to release them, and they refused to release them. And so they said that they were going to bust them out of Birmingham and take them to another county and jail them there, because they were going to jail them. And Dr. King told them they were not going to jail them. And so the way that it ended, Dr. King told them, all of us were waiting at that 16th Street Baptist Church, just hundreds of African Americans waiting there for him to come back. And if he didn't show up, then he was, if they didn't release the protesters, he was going to contact the officials there, the other ministers there, and instruct them to release all of us to go out there in the street and join and start marching and all. So not only would they have those people that they were unable to jail and in the amusement park, they would have the rest of us, all of us, the mass of people were held in 16th Street Baptist Church to go out on the street and just start protesting in the middle of the night under those conditions. And so that's what made them release those protesters. And so it took him a long time that night to do that. So when he came back, we were happy that things turned out as well. But at the same time, we had been so worried and really happy to see him back.
I can certainly imagine. So as we talk about that pivotal moment in your life, pretty much that consumed most of your life, up close and personal, tell me about as you got older and matriculated into adulthood and your education and how that was impacted.
Well, as I got older, it impacted me and my family personally. After we were able to make those changes in Birmingham, get the laws changed, where everything was desegregated, the University of Alabama, I mentioned that in the education field, there was segregation. We couldn't attend the same schools there. So the University of Alabama, the main campus was located in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And after we desegregated, Vivian Malone was the first Black to be admitted to the University of Alabama. Well, George Wallace was the governor at the time, and he vowed on TV and all publicity to stand before the schoolhouse door and not permit her to be enrolled and admitted to the University of Alabama. So the federal government had to send federal officials there to monitor and be there to physically allow her to be admitted to the University of Alabama. And so they made a deal. We didn't know that a deal was made behind the scenes. But when they got there, it had already been predetermined that once they asked Governor Wallace to move, he would step aside and she would enter. But he had vowed all the way up to that point that he would not allow her to enter the University of Alabama. Now, personally, Vivian Malone is the only graduate from that main campus in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, before me. And again, it wasn't integrated until she went. And I and another male Black student graduated in the same year. But she was the only one to graduate before me from the University of Alabama. So that was one thing. The other way it affected being adulthood is my brother, after everything was integrated, he was able to be a fireman. And he retired from the fire department at Birmingham, Alabama. And back to the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, the main campus, I had a niece that actually taught there at the University of Alabama. So my immediate family was affected. But at the same time, all of the people in the Alabama and all of the whole state, after all of that happened, were able to have fair treatment and equal treatment and be able to be integrated into everything that was open to.
Yes, legacy and action. But I don't want to gloss over the university too much, because you were the second African American to graduate from the campus that you attended. Is that correct?
Yeah, the main campus was located in Tuscaloosa.
That's where Vivian was.
Right.
Okay.
And I graduated from there, as well as one other. So nobody graduated, I should say, before the two of us, and Vivian alone, except for Vivian.
Vivian first, you second, and the other gentleman third.
Well,
but the two of
came
you had
the
a
same
different
year.
Okay. I just want to make that abundantly clear to our audience that is watching, to know the depth of your involvement and the heights that you reached in the civil rights struggle. That's very, very important for us to document today. So as we begin to close out, is there anything else that you want to add?
No, this is the time of year that I'm always reminded of all of those, because this is the time of year that we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. And I was able to, first of all, I'm appreciative of the opportunity he gave me to get acquainted with Dr. King and to be so involved in the movement. Even at the time that he passed away, we immediately rushed. I was at the University of Alabama at the time, and my entire family went to Atlanta, Georgia, where they were going to funeralize Dr. King. And so I was able to participate in the farewell to Martin Luther King as well. I had a sister that lived in Atlanta at the time. So I did have the opportunity to go and spend time even after his death, be able to sit there to his body, to be able to, in more than one location, because other people were coming in that we knew that wanted to go. So he was on the campus, one of the colleges there at first, and then they moved him to the church. And so I was able to spend time, and I was happy to have that as well, because it gave me a lot of closure in that kind of situation.
Yes. Well, we thank you for not only the closure, but the awareness, and our eyes are wide open to you as our living legend and our hidden figure, hidden no more. So I, along with everyone watching, wholeheartedly thank you for sharing your story, giving us insights, personal insights to how we got open. So thank you so much. I affectionately call you my auntie, so thank you, Monty.